Hello, folks. So this is Starreign Devlog 4. It's been a few months since my last update. That's mostly on account of my life having been very busy. I've had a new job, and it's been pretty. It's been taking a lot of my time. But anyway, there's been a lot of changes since my last update. Most of them have to do with menus. So menus, you may or may not have known, are a pretty big part of any game. So what the deal is that menus are required to connect everything. Without menus to connect the different features in your game, you don't have a game. And I've realized that because I have a lot of very cool little bits and pieces. I think I have like a playable game demo, but without the menus to connect different areas and things like that, I'm very much stuck without being able to progress any further. So menus, right? So the last time you saw this home page, home title menu, this menu used to be over here in the center. Um, this stuff's not too interesting. I've added a bunch of new buttons. I've kind of moved it. Um, me thinking what would be a better stylistic decision. I'm not much of an artist, so all of these things are kind of they're not final. But anyway, I've been working on the title menu and getting into the game. So if you click New Game, you have these two new options. So Starreign being the main campaign, and then Community being what will eventually be the other option. So you can download maps from like the community online. You can play arcade little snippets like little scenarios, I guess, things like that. So menus are a pretty big thing, and I personally do not like working on menus because it's for me it's very boring. It's a lot of very repetitive stuff. Um, it's mostly it's just making things look good. I don't know if any of this stuff looks good. It looks all right to me, but it's just a lot of this getting just the right look, the right kind of functionality, and it's very kind of like information systemy, like just what's your workflow, or what's the player's like play flow gonna be, and that's not at all interesting to me, but it is necessary. And if you're a developer of one like myself, you have to do everything. So I have been doing that, um, but it's kind of hard to stay on point. I've been working on menus for months, just because that's where I'm at in the game, where I need menus to progress to, the next stage. And for me, it's not very motivating. It's not the part of the game that I enjoy. I enjoy obviously making the world, the physics, the rules, the combat, the gameplay, but not the menus. So that said, my solution to this problem has been to make this arcade mode, which is why this thing exists in the first place. So, um, the purpose of the arcade mode is I can take my game, Star Rain, and I can break it up into chunks. So, for example, the first entry here is gonna be called Eternal War. So it's just gonna be like a map. I'm gonna be able to show you later, but it's just gonna be a map um, where you kind of have endless waves of monsters spawning, and you have to fight them. And in this very like specific contrived case, I can I can figure out my game mechanics, how things will flow, and it kind of gives me a little bit of a break from working on the menus because I'm actually connecting the menus to something gameplay-ish, which is the part obviously that I like. So that's what I've been that's one of the things I've been working on, um, arcade mode, which I'll show you in a little bit. Um, but really, most of my work has been menus. So I'm gonna go into much more detail. Um, One thing I'd like to show is the character creation menu, which is going to be in here. It's not quite ready, but I think you might like what you see. So here we have a very classical kind of select your class. It's a very role play concept. So I have some placeholders here, and some of my own classes. They kind of are Dungeons and Dragons inspired. For example, Soldier is like the fighter from Dungeons and Dragons. Scout would be the rogue. Engineer would be the cleric, and so on and so forth. And I have little descriptions down here. I'm not going to read them for what the classes do. For example, Technomancer. I'm just gonna. This has one of the cooler descriptions, so I'm gonna highlight a little part of it or just describe it, which was in the description. I talk about how technomancers, which are like this cyborgy, very technological people, can like ascend into the internet as like a consciousness that's everywhere, and that could be like a capstone ability or I don't know something like that. I'd have to figure it out, but very cool lore wise, and obviously I'm making up the lore as I go. Um, and here we have your attribute selection. So we have point buy, which is another Dungeons and Dragons concept where you'd pick your stats based on a limited number of points. This is not implemented yet, so we're just going to go with roll attributes, which is you roll and you try to get the best stats that you can. Um, it's another role playing concept. I've kind of taken inspirations from Dungeons and Dragons, which had I think 6 stats, and I've condensed it into 3 core stats. So strength being the stat that's going to be like melee combat strength, what kind of gear you can wear, like armor and stuff. Dexterity would be like hand-eye coordination and aim, accuracy, and then intelligence would be like your mental stats, you know, for helping with spell casting or magic or whatever. Anyway, here we have alignment select, another Dungeons and Dragons concept. Um, this game is Dungeons and Dragons inspired, but obviously being a sci-fi setting, it's not going to be, the a copycat or anything. So here we have a select alignment. I've kind of taken my favorite parts of Dungeons and Dragons. In this case, this is pretty standard if you've ever seen it before. Basically, you pick an alignment, which is like your moral code. So, for example, lawful good would be like a policeman or something, someone who believes in the law and is like inherently good person. Chaotic evil might be like a crazy hermit in the woods or something who's very antisocial and like murderous or something. Someone who doesn't believe in order and is inherently like a bad person. Um, Chaotic good would, for example, be someone who does good no matter what, even if it's against the law. You have a cool little um, array of different moral codes here. There's some descriptions down here. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail just because there's a lot to cover. Um, but it basically summarizes what each one is. I'm going to pick true neutral. Here we would have our feat select where you'd pick some stuff depending on your class. It's not fully implemented, just kind of a skeleton. Same thing for arcana, which would be your spells. Spells and feats, more kind of on the spell side. I thought arcana was a cool name for spells since it's a sci-fi setting. Um, you would select your appearance, again, not implemented because I have no idea what anything's going to look like. Select a name. You'd pick a name here. You'd basically click and type. Nothing special. This part, though, I find very cool. So, obviously, when you're playing a game, it's nice to have some kind of backstory. And it's even cooler if you get to pick your own backstory. So that's what I've done. I've created, I think, 4 or 5 pages where you get to kind of create a quick backstory for yourself. And obviously, I'm going to make it so that whatever backstory you pick, it might change your starting conditions, what city you start in, maybe if you have a companion or some better gear or more money or better skills or something, right? So these will tell a different story depending on what you pick. and there's a lot of different options. So I'm gonna pick farmer for now. So just to kind of run you through this very quickly, it's a description of my childhood. It doesn't say much because I picked true neutral, which just means I have like no real strong moral leaning towards good or bad or anything like that. So it's just a description about me not having any preference at all. I would move on to the early life chapter where I'd pick some other stuff. It basically says what I did in like elementary school, middle school, maybe high school, and then my first job. And in this case, we have some very American jobs, right? Waiter, janitor, teacher. You know, the kind of jobs you have straight out of university, right? Sorry, that's mean. But so I'll pick waiter, and here we have a bug. I have to fix it. This got all squashed. It should be spread out, but it would talk about what happened after I was a waiter, and then how I transitioned to being my actual class. I'm not going to read these things because it's a little bit long. Um, and then this would be how I some kind of profound experience I had. I'm going to say a near death experience. I'm being very vague here because I just don't want to read the mountains of text that I've written. Um, and yeah, basically, you would have different stories depending on what you picked. I like this because I think it's really cool to have a backstory for a character, and if you're making lots of different characters, it's cool for them to have different backstories and being the same thing every time. Um, and obviously, since this game is more sandboxy, it's kind of like Mountain Blade Warband if you've ever played that game, where you're gonna just be dropped into a universe that has like some vague guidance of what you should be doing, but it's really up to you. So I think it's cooler for those soundboxy games if you are whoever you want to be. In this case, you pick your backstory. Anyway, so there's no next because that's the last tab. There are some other menus I want to show you, which are in game. Let me. My mouse is not working very well. Basically, there's a fast travel now, so I'm excited about that because that means that I'm quite close to being able to make the very basic elements of a game. You know, once I have fast travel, I have a game, right? It might not be the most exciting game, but it can just be a travel between different areas and conquer them game, right? Something like that. So once I finish up the fast travel, which I've been a bit lazy with, I'll have so much. I don't know what's going on with the lighting here. It looks very dull, but I don't really care. So we're gonna just move on to the fast travel. Um, let's see, where's fast travel? Is it under M? I'm just pressing keys here. All right, here we go. Fast travel. So we're gonna travel to, I don't remember which of these it is. I think Slonio, and it should take us to a different area after our loading screen. Again, just kind of like placeholders unless I can make these things look good. Um, Okie dokie, here we are. We are in Slonio. And basically, all I really want to show you here is that we're in a different location. And you probably can't really see it, but in the corner over there are a bunch of enemies. So here we go, right? We traveled to a new area, new enemies were spawned in. Um, there should be a leaderboard over here somewhere, but I think all my menus are not working very well. Um, at least over here. It's probably related to I upgraded the Unity client because I wanted to download some assets, and it won't let you download the assets unless you update the client. And then obviously the client screws everything up because it changes, the framework. And anyway, so stuff broke. But you can see off in the corner there, we have enemies. I'm not going to go over there because it's going to take too long. But that would be basically kind of the beginnings of fast travel, which I'm excited about. The only problem with the whole fast travel and making the game more of a game is we come back to menus, right? So many menus that we have to do. I think I showed this last time. I hate menus. That's maybe an exaggeration, but not by a lot. I really dislike menus, and I think Unity makes the menus better. I mean, I personally am scripting the menus, so that might not really be helping all that much because I hear there's like NGUI is like one of the Unity inbuilt like features for making menus really quick. But the problem with those is you don't really get to full control of what you want to do. And what I personally hate is that all the menus become objects in the game. And one of the things I don't like about Unity is there's this tendency to program for Unity rather than to just program like for programming. So, for example, in Unity they have a lot of inbuilt pre-functions like update and fixed update, which like are called every frame. So maybe 60 times a second or something like that. And they're convenient, they're nice, but if you're a new developer, and I guess in particular if you're new to Unity, it's very easy to get stuck in the way Unity wants you to think. And the way Unity wants you to think is somewhat limiting, So, for example, you if you want to, you can program Unity in pure C sharp. You can make your own classes, you can make your static classes, you can make a database inside the game. I have done that. I haven't included all the items, but I have all these items in a database class file. It's awesome. Um, it certainly helps. It's very nice to just use your own programming wits, and that's one of the reasons I've been scripting the menus because there's so many of them, and I want to control them exactly to be how I want them to be. Um, but yeah, that's it's your pros and cons. Unity is a great engine. It definitely makes a lot of things pretty easy. But if you want to really get into the nitty gritty, you should definitely explore just programming as in general rather than programming for Unity. Anyway, so as you can see, I fought some enemies that killed me. This would have been a city that I could have claimed. Um, that's all coming in the future. This is still super pre-alpha, alpha. Um, but that's that. Showed you fast travel, and I'll quickly just show you the arcade mode that I'm quickly working on, which the purpose is mostly just to flesh out a lot of game concepts, basically to make a playable little area. Maybe I can make it like a section I can play at like those PAX game conventions or something. Who knows? But anyway, so this would be the arcade mode. So enemies and friendlies should spawn in. As you can see, we have a little leaderboard up here. Um, there's not too much to say about this. It's a little bit of a neat area. I'm still just kind of trying to get basic playing functionality down. Next thing I'm probably going to work on is maybe finally giving these placeholder people an actual model, like a soldier, really cool high res soldier model. Maybe add in some animations. I'm not sure. Right now I've just been doing some camera work. So one thing I noticed, for example, when you moving around, is that it's very annoying to try and figure out what you're looking at because the camera just wants to zoom in at a specific angle. So I added this little thing over here in the corner that kind of lets you change the preset. There's a bit of a bug with it right now that I'm trying to fix, which is if you set the preset too high, you kind of get this bobbing effect. But you don't need to worry about that. That's going to be pretty easy to fix. Um, oops. Anyway, so that's that. I'm just going to go and kill myself real quick, and that's pretty much all the updates. It's mostly been menu stuff. Um, I mean, just this little bit of stuff has taken me for freaking ever, like months. Um, it's obviously a bit of a combination of also not having a lot of time, but I'm trying to I'm trying to work the game into my life a little bit after work once in a while. I definitely want to finish it. I'd love for it to be a sweet D&D sci-fi kind of experience. I'm just gonna go over here to show you that these guys are gonna respawn and kick my butt. Um, anyway, so that's pretty much it. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching. Let me know if you, well, any viewers that I do have, let me know if there's something you'd like me to talk about more. I can always discuss Unity or programming for Unity or even just how I've been programming this game. I think it's very simple and elementary, but I have a lot of cool little functions. Like these are all D&D characters. They make rolls to hit and everything, and it's in my opinion super cool. Even though this stuff is just all placeholders right now, um, I see a lot of potential here. I think this could be a very fun game. It's gonna need a little bit of flushing out, definitely with the art direction. Me not being an artist and all, um, or even really knowing how to design this stuff to look good. But oh well, you know, one day. Oh, my guy fell down. Oh well, time for him to die. Oh, and he did. That was very quick. Well, I think that's a pretty good way to end the demo. Staring at the sky. Oh, how beautiful. We are literally the character laying on the ground, dead, staring up at the sky. That's pretty deep, but not really, because I can spawn him again pretty quick. Oh, look, we're back, right? We're alive again! Oh, in my world, there's no consequences. My virtual world. Um, anyway, so to summarize, I've been mostly working on the menus. Menus are a nightmare. I definitely have to start thinking about how to, you know, get some press for this game. It's still in the very early stages. Well, I wouldn't really say it's in the early stages of development anymore. It's kind of more in the medium early stage now. There's definitely something coming together, but press is a big deal. I've heard I've heard one of the problems with game development is, maybe you make a game and it's amazing, but no one knows it. No one knows it exists, and then what, right? Who is it for? So that's one of the reasons I make this video or these videos. I hope someone will like it one day and start following me. I created a Patreon, by the way. Um, you're welcome to follow me on Patreon. You do not have to donate money. I don't really need money. I just want followers. Um, just because I would like to get some feedback on this game, maybe create a beta or start, you know, having other people give me some advice or tips on what they think would be, good to work on. It's just a lot more cooler to make a game like this when there's an audience that knows it exists and cares about it. So that's one of the things I'm trying to do, just create a little bit of an audience. Um, so anyway, this was nice, and I'll be keeping on working on this, and hopefully next time there'll be some graphical updates and things will look better. Anyway, until next time, stay awesome, guys. Take care.